Welcome to ABC4 News at 10. I'm Glenn Mills.
And I'm Emily Flores. We thank you for joining us here on this Monday night. We do begin with breaking news from our nation's capital. Leaked documents tonight. The Supreme Court privately has voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, according to a leaked draft opinion published late tonight by Politico. Now, the apparent draft shows that the panel's conservative majority of justices is ready to overturn the nation's abortion. Now, the 67-page document was penned earlier this year by Justice Samuel Alito arguing that decisions on abortion law should be made by politicians, returning the issue to individual states. Now, this is highly unusual for decisions to leak like this, many even criticizing the action as a political move. We do want to make it clear tonight, this is not an official or final ruling. Things could change by June when the official decision is made public, but reaction pouring in tonight. Barricades have gone up around the Supreme Court of the United States in Washington, D.C., and according to ABC News, there's a large crowd gathered as well there. Right now, we're being told they're relatively calm. Now, we're also told some people have pro-choice signs with them.
Utah, one of several states with a trigger law already in place in the event of SCOTUS overturning Roe v. Wade. Senator Dan McKay is the sponsor of that law that passed back in 2020. Senator, thanks so much for making time and being here with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start off with what will happen here. If this indeed becomes official, when SCOTUS makes all its other rulings public, what will happen?
According to Senate Bill 174, the Legislative General Counsel will review the decision, and if the decision allows for Utah to enact a ban, the ban will apply such that there will be no elective abortions in the state of Utah, with the exception for health of the mother and for rape and incest.
And it's my understanding, I read through the law again just to make sure, but this doesn't have any type of number associated as far as weeks. This is an all-out ban on abortion except in those exceptions you talk about.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great clarification. Remember, the number of weeks, viability, or the trimester approach, which is the Roe v. Wade approach, and then Casey was the viability standard. All of those decisions, let's talk about what we're talking about. They were all invented by the Supreme Court. And that's the interesting part about what we're doing here, is that 30 states at the time of Roe v. Wade in 1974 banned abortion in one shape or another. And now if the Supreme Court acts, they're overturning its own judicially created law. And that's what I think when you see and you read the opinion, as I've had a chance to read it before we're coming here today, that's what the judges focus on, is that Roe v. Wade and the Casey decision decided shortly thereafter were decided incorrectly.
Mm-hmm. Going back to 2020, what was the strategy? What were your thoughts at the time as you were looking into the future?
You know, it was clear that the landscape has been moving on this issue. The interesting thing is that the Casey decision, one of the key parts of the way the decision was structured, you basically had the Supreme Court divided in 3 different parts. The interesting thing is they were hoping that this would bring an end to the conversation, and here we are 50 years later, and we still have a nation divided. And I'm hopeful that we'll have more states follow our plan. You've seen 62.5 million abortions performed in the last 50 years.
What was your reaction when you first heard about this? I know I was talking to you earlier when I found out to set all this up, and your phone has been blowing up. But what did you think? What were your thoughts and feelings at the moment when you heard about this today?
Well, number one, I was coaching a Little League baseball game when my phone blew up, and you were the first to tell me. And I got to be honest, I was surprised. We weren't expecting a decision for another couple of months. Second, I was a little disappointed, to be honest. Decisions like this should never leak from the Supreme Court. And people have to realize, in my recollection of following the court and in many people's recollection, this has never happened. And so one of the problems that you see here is this is some ways a political maneuver intended to influence the judiciary's decision. And in some ways, I would argue, this is probably a very egregious attack on our courts, and hopefully we can regain the trust of the institution, because this is a big problem.
One of the things this would do, just to make clear, is this would put it in the hands of states. So what we could have is kind of a patchwork of laws all across the country. Opponents would argue that that makes it impossible for those without the means to be able to go through with this. Your thoughts on that?
Utah is in a better situation than we were 50 years ago when Roe v. Wade and the Casey decision were handed down. 50 years ago, we did not have the health care support. We also did not have the women's services available. And I would honestly tell you, if there was a woman today who had an unplanned pregnancy, she is in a much better position today. We as a community are in a much better spot to support them as well. And so I'm hopeful that we, continue to invest in those resources to support those women and babies.
Senator McKay, we'll be watching this closely over the next couple of months to see what happens, but big story tonight, and we really appreciate your insight. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Emily?
And tonight, Planned Parenthood Association of Utah reacting to the leaked documents. Planned Parenthood, of course, a nonprofit organization that provides reproductive health care and advocates for reproductive rights. Joining me now is Carrie Galloway, Chief Executive Officer and President at PPAU. Thank you, Carrie, for joining us here tonight. I know you have been so busy.
Thank you for your interest in the story.
We want to start right off, Carrie, with when you heard the news of this draft, what's the reaction to it all?
Well, let's not publish for TV, but after taking a deep breath, I realized that abortion is still legal today, tonight in this country, as well as Utah. It is only a draft opinion.
Who is going to be impacted most if they overturn Roe v. Wade and abortion is banned in Utah?
Oh, people of means will figure things out. I think about the people that Planned Parenthood serves every day, people without insurance. The majority of women who have abortions already are mothers. They can't pick up and go to another state that has codified health care to get basic health care. People who do not have the means, the financial means, the emotional means to travel out of state to get basic health care. People who are desperate to be able to plan their families and help their families live their best lives. Those are the people who are going to be devastated because they aren't going to be able to make their own personal family and healthcare decisions.
Tell us, Carrie, what the plan is from here. You already made the comment that this is just a draft. This is nothing set in stone. No formal vote has taken place. But what happens from here?
Well, I hope that everybody realizes the dire straits that reproductive justice and reproductive health care is in. We continually hear that 60% of the people in this country do not want Roe versus Wade overturned. Those are going to be disappointed and angry people when they realize that a number of people's private moral beliefs are going to govern their everyday lives. And I'm hoping that they will raise up in arms and speak out. Luckily, states have codified reproductive health care and reproductive rights. We have to the west, California and Nevada, to the east, Colorado. We will have to work to make sure that people can live their dreams, their lives, and get their health care.
Carrie, just lastly, we have 30 seconds left. What do you want people to know and understand tonight? Your final words before we part ways.
Planned Parenthood is with you. We will always be with you to make sure that reproductive health care can be delivered in the best way possible. We need your help in working with us to help women make their health care dreams come true.
Carrie, we thank you again for your time tonight. Again, Carrie Galloway with Planned Parenthood of Utah.
Thank you.
Today's released documents are also garnering a lot of attention on social media, as you can imagine. ABC4's Courtney Johns live in studio tonight with what people are saying. Courtney.
Yeah, Glenn, while the U.S. Supreme Court has barricades around it, our state capitol is pretty quiet tonight, but plenty of people are talking about it on social media. Take a look here on what we're seeing on Twitter. The ACLU tweeting this evening that if these documents were in fact by Justice Alito, quote, the shift in the tectonic plates of abortion rights will be as significant as any opinion the court has ever issued. Utah Senator Mike Lee also releasing a lengthy statement saying in part that the Supreme Court is unlike any other branch of government. It's not a political body, and confidentiality is vital to free operations of justice, going on to say to violate an understanding that has held the entire modern history of the court, seeking to place outside political pressure on the court and the justices themselves is dangerous, despicable, and damaging. He also calls the draft well written and says he hopes that it reflects the majority of the court. And here's a look at what the Utah Democratic Party Chair Diane Lewis says, writing in part, the Republicans have been fighting for decades to impose their unpopular extremist views on this issue upon Americans, while Democrats have stood firm in the belief that reproductive freedom is fundamental and must be protected. Now, we want to know what you think, so let us know on our Facebook page. That's ABC4 Utah. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Courtney. We appreciate it. We're continuing coverage of this fluid situation surrounding Roe v. Wade. Stick with us here at ABC4 on air and always online at abc4.com.